Hey everyone, welcome back to Week Ahead Astrology Breakdown. I'm Matthew Oliver from Stillwater Alchemy, and this week we're really going to deep dive into Uranus because we had that Mars-Uranus-North node conjunction at the start of the week, and then Mars heats things up with a square to Saturn. So lots to examine, but first, curious minds want to know, for those of you that have like curly and wavy hair, like, do you have a miracle product that you use, especially in the hot months, or like some kind of hair oil or hair product? I was getting ready today and I was like, there is nothing about me that's straight. These curls just like live a life of their own. It's like that scene in Legally Blonde 2 where she has a moment to speak in front of all the congressmen and congresswomen to pass Bruiser's bill. And she's like, we need to talk about something that's the most important, something more important than education, more important than children, my hair. So also curly, off the beaten path, Uranus energy. It's all in alignment. So let's hop into this week, shall we? So August 1st, happy August, Monday, starting at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we start off the week, like I said, with this Mars North Node Uranus exact conjunction at 18 degrees. So break this down a little bit. We've been saying here on these week ahead forecasts with Mars and Taurus, it really is taking your time, pursuing things that you really want to put forth effort, or what you want to fight for, or what is passionate. Sometimes Mars, of course, can be conflict or pain or ailments. So it can manifest in a couple different ways. So first of all, look to your own natal chart to see which house Taurus rules, if you haven't done so already. Second of all, what's interesting is with Uranus, it's the planet of unexpected change, surprise, revolution. And so it could be something in my mind where it accelerates something you really wanted or something you've been working hard towards, especially with the North Node here. It could be like something that you've been working towards since the beginning of 2022, given that the nodes shifted into Taurus and Scorpio mid-January of 2022. So you might have already been feeling this energy, and now it's a culmination or a climax of sorts, or something that you've really wanted, right? Because we just had that Leo new moon. So it might just be something in accordance to that you've been working very hard towards. It can also be something that just happens extremely fast. So it could be a promotion, a move, a relationship, more money coming in, again, depending on where Taurus falls in your own natal chart. And then lastly, it could just be a situation that arises. And then given that Mars is going to be making that square to Saturn all week, it could really show you where you need to put forth that discipline or that mastery. It's kind of like when you get a new job or you start a new business or a new relationship, you're like, finally, I got everything that I wanted. And then you're like, oh, now the real work, the real fun begins of me showing up every single day and doing the thing. So pay attention to that. What's also interesting for those of you that are very much into astrology, I was trying to find the next time that we have an exact conjunction with Mars, the North Node, and Uranus, because Uranus changes signs every 8 years approximately. The North Node is retrograding, so it shifts signs every year and a half or so. And truly, I couldn't find an exact conjunction. The next time we have all three, Mars, the North Node, and Uranus in the same sign, it's going to be April 29th, 2038. But Uranus is going to be at 20 degrees of Cancer, and then Mars and North Node is going to be at 12 degrees. And then the next time after that, when all three are going to be co-present, was January 19th, 2067. And again, it was like 8 degrees and 29 degrees. So they're not exactly conjunct. And then after that, it was like 2098. So this is a really fun, auspicious energy that I would love for you all to comment if you feel comfortable how it manifests. I'll be sure to check in as well. I just feel like it's going to be very obvious, especially for fixed sign dominant people. If you have anything in Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius between, let's say, 15 to 21 degrees, I'm sure something is going to manifest for you where you're like, it came in all of a sudden, or this huge passion project. And of course, sometimes too, just making sure that you're supporting yourself if you haven't been prioritizing your health, it may come up. That's like a diagnosis comes up or some rehabilitation. Even the last time that we had Mars making a square to Saturn was when Mars was in Scorpio, those first 2 weeks of November. That was the last time we had a Mars Saturn square. And I know personally, I was going through a very intense, rigorous rehab for my wrist. And I would go to the gym every night and just have to do the exercises. I was lifting like 3 pounds and I was like very irritated. I couldn't even hold a knife without it hurting. So, and again, I just did the rehab and here we are almost a year later, beautiful, flawless health. So just some things, I know I'm talking about this a lot, but it is a very rare occurrence as we've just seen. And when these things happen, it's just nice to be prepared. So when something happens rapidly or all at once, or again, you're the recipient of a loved one of all this rapid change, that you're not caught off guard again. Because like Uranus and Taurus, it's a sign that's spontaneous and full of change, the planet of Uranus, and then in a sign that's very stable and very fixed. And then with Mars there and the North Node, it's like, buckle up, hunker down, get ready for a beautiful change to come through. And I'm glad that Saturn's there, to be honest, to kind of tame this volatility and give it structure. And like I said, this Mars-Saturn square is going to be persisting all week with the exact square happening on Sunday. So just be mindful of that. It could also be the precipice, when you are about to reach something massive, something huge, and it just feels like nothing is working out in your favor, where it's just like, it feels like it's like brick wall, brick wall, brick wall. This could also be that where it's like a climax of frustration or a boiling point. You're like, I don't know how much longer I can keep having faith or keep doing this again and again and again. And then once we get past that square, it might be like, oh, this is my time. It reminds me of Annie Murphy. She plays Alexis on the sitcom Schitt's Creek. And she said when she was auditioning for that role, it was like the year prior, it's like her house had burned down. She had been auditioning nonstop. She like blew a huge screen test during pilot season. And she felt it was as if the universe was telling her, it's like, acting is not for you. And then she booked that role. Anyone who has watched Schitt's Creek or is a fan of the show knew that she just was brilliant in that television show. Also a good show to watch if you haven't yet before. And then she was recently on Russian Doll with Natasha Lyonne. She has her own show as well. I forget the name at the exact moment. But again, in those moments, this is what it kind of reminds me of. So it can, like I said, manifest in a couple of different ways. I'll be sure to report back any fun manifestation stories. Let me know. Okay. And then we also have almost a grand Earth trine effect as well, with the moon in Virgo making this separating trine to everything. And then the moon also making a trine to Pluto in Capricorn. So there's a lot of shifts happening, stability, maybe new structures, new stability, new finances, right? Thinking about Earth energy or new ways of doing things to help support you. So just being aware of that. And the moon is also opposing Neptune on Monday as well. So just be mindful of letting your ego dictate things or escaping into various voids, or if something is very frustrating, not allowing certain vices or addictions or mindsets to run the narrative, because that could be one way of like being extremely frustrated and turning to whatever you use to escape as a way to not deal with it, where I would implore you to sit with this energy and see where that change or that revolution or that alchemy can take place to support you. Okay. So yes, right at the start of the week, right at the start of the month, we are in it. Tuesday is a bit lighter. In contrast, we're still dealing with this. And the one thing I should say, again, there's a lot I could talk about here. Woo! We do have Venus making a sextile, given that Venus moves faster than any of these planets. So Venus is sextiling everything that we have here in Taurus, which is really nice. So I always feel like the universe throws us a bone to help alleviate some tension or some of these intense transits. So really play to that. So you can even look to the house that is ruled by Cancer of like, there's actually a lot going on here. And then I can use these Venusian blessings to help contrast everything. So let's say Taurus rules your 4th house and Venus rules your 6th house. Maybe you can get some support from your work, from what you're doing with certain colleagues or coworkers that can help mitigate certain things. Or there's a lot of shifts going on at work, but you're actually hiring on new people to help you. And it's helping to bring you to a higher point in your career, which is helping to bring more stability at home, as an example, right? So there's often times in astrology we'll see where one part in our chart is really activated. There's another part where there are some nice blessings from one of the benefics. So just something to keep in mind as we move into Tuesday, that Venus is still helping, right? So now Venus is at 18 degrees of Cancer, making that direct applied sextile to the North Node in Uranus. So also this can be, especially with the moon in Libra on Tuesday, making a sextile to the sun. When I was getting ready for this video, I'm like, oh, there could be a lot of dating options or like a lot of lovers coming into the scene, which is very Taurus, right? Taurus is ruled by Venus. And the moon is also opposing Jupiter, where it could be like a plethora of options. And you're like, oh, there's so many things to choose from. I don't know what to do first, in a good way, or it can sometimes be overwhelming because when it rains, it pours and everything is just coming through at once. If I'm thinking Mars and Uranus and Taurus, I kind of think of a volcano where it just erupts. And that's a fun metaphor for many things. Yes. However, it can be a lot at once. And once that volcano erupts, you need to allow things to subside before you can know where to walk or how to proceed. So I would choose joy on Tuesday with the moon in Libra, sun in Leo, and just have some fun, especially if Monday kind of rocked you or you're still recovering from that new moon in Leo. It's like, I'm just going to take some time to integrate. Tuesday could also be a fun day just to see what manifests. The moon is in a nice condition. There's going to be a lot that comes through. And also, like, be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you put out into the universe, because there's just so much change in the cosmos. So things can happen really rapidly. So this could also be a time to flex your manifestation muscles and see what's coming through. And it could also be a time where it's like, I just want to be around really loving people, these Libra connections, or I want to be around really beautiful things, or I want to touch luxury, or whatever that is for you. It's like, I want to be seen and I want to be around people that love me to help me transition through this change. And that really is evident for me on Wednesday, because the moon is making that square to Venus, but it's also trining Saturn. So for me, it could be really recalibrating to all the new change that's happening in your life and saying, what do I need to prioritize? Because there's only so many hours in a day. So everything could be taking off. It could be career, relationships, family, everything. And so you're like, I just really need to prioritize certain things. And there could be an aspect of people pleasing, right? Where we find with Libra, and then now it's making a square to Venus in Cancer, where you don't want to let anyone down, or you want to make sure that everyone's seen and loved, but is it at the expense of yourself? So you might say, okay, I really need to tighten up my morning routine or my evening routine, or after work, I'm not going to go for drinks for happy hour. I'm going to go to the gym because I know that's the only time I can literally fit that in. Or however this might manifest for you. It's just like a good use of boundaries so you can enjoy all the blessings that are coming in. Also, part of me is you might, because this comes up later when the moon moves into Scorpio, where you might just need a maternal or feminine energy that you can lean on. And that could be, of course, a male that has nice nurturing energy, but really pay attention to that if you're watching this at the start of the week or at any point throughout this week of like, oh, I really just need someone that can hold space for me. I need someone that can just understand me on an emotional level. I want to be able to go deeper with certain people. And that comes up, like I said, later on in the week of just having a nurturing, loving energy to hold you or support you. Or you may find yourself having the emotional capacity to pour into or hold space for others. So that is coming through a little bit on Wednesday. When we get into Thursday with the moon in Scorpio, so Thursday and Friday, it's just a lot of fixed sign activation, right? So this is just something to note. Also, we find on the 4th, Mercury is now in the sign of Virgo, which is beautiful because Mercury is both exalted and in its domicile in Virgo. And we have the moon making that sextile to Mercury. So it could be a really great day. I have written down in my notes, like mining for the truth, or really seeking out that resolution of being like, this is actually what I want, or this relationship has now formed like this, or just something becoming more clear, intuition sharpening. It's a nice balance of where both your mind and your intuition can be firing at the exact same rate, where it just affirms what you want, right? Because that mercurial energy in Virgo is very exact to the second, kind of like how I was picking the exact dates of that future Mars, Uranus, North node energy. It's just very excellent. It could also be a great time to focus if you're like, I really just need to focus on learning a certain skill to advance in career, or I really want to prioritize my health in this way. So pay attention to what intuitive messages are coming through on Thursday, because I think that could really help, especially now, because Mercury is going to like kind of zoom through Virgo a little bit, but then once it gets to Libra, it's going to retrograde and then go back to Virgo. So this part of your chart could be where a lot of correspondence, business, thoughts, communication could be happening over the next little bit. Okay. And then once we move into Friday, this is where things get a little spicy, but there's some reprieve. Like I said, the universe holding us with grace. So the moon in Scorpio conjunct the south node. Remember that the moon is in her fall in Scorpio. It can be a lot of emotions, it can be a lot of intensity. Sometimes when the moon is in Scorpio as well, it can feel lonely or untrusting, or it just wants to have that passion and that intimacy. It can feel a little frisky, depending on the vibe. And we see that the moon is making a square to the sun. It's making a square to Saturn. It's opposing Uranus and Mars. So a lot of tension on Friday. One way I think this could manifest beautifully is through conflict resolution. You're going to be able to experience love at a greater degree, or you overcoming something that was perceived as difficult is now going to lead to more accomplishment or more beauty or something that you've always wanted. And I say that because the moon is making that applied trine to Venus. And there's a little bit of mutual reception here because the moon is in its home sign in Cancer. So this is why I was saying maybe a maternal figure or a mother, like your literal mother, or maybe an adoptive mother, or someone you consider like a maternal, mentor, loving energy can hold you, especially if you're a fixed sign. I know I say that a lot, but fixed signs are going through it. There's no way about it. And going through it doesn't mean always a bad thing. It just means that everything is coming up for them to grow, to alchemize, to expand. But in those moments of contraction, it can feel really intense, especially if you have a fixed rising sign. So if you're Scorpio, Taurus, Aquarius, or Leo rising, all these activations are happening in your angular houses, which is your personal life, your relationships, your home life, and career. So it can be intense. So that way on Friday, knowing that these energies are going to be very activated, you can seek out that. It could also just be going to a spa and having people and like receiving that love and that care. It could be going to a restaurant, having people serve you, and just having a certain resource where you're being cared for if you need it. And again, you might also feel that you are going to be that for someone else, or intuitive. You're like, I feel like I need to check up on someone. Especially maybe your Scorpio friends or people that have like a Scorpio moon or a Scorpio rising. You might just want to check in on them and say, how are we doing? How are we feeling? Because again, sometimes these fears or apprehensions just manifest and there's no real reason behind them. But then you look at the astrology, you're like, oh yes, that is why. Especially this moon Uranus opposition with Mars there can just be all these shadow aspects or insecurities coming out of nowhere for us to alchemize and then experience love. It can sometimes be like when you're in a relationship and you're doubting that they are faithful or that they're going to be there for you, or you get to a new point where you're like, I love them so much, but all these traumas or things from the past keep coming up. Not saying that's going to manifest, but it's an example of how this may come up for you, or just being insecure at work or whatever it may be. So having that loving energy would be wise. And then once we get to Saturday, like depending on your time zone, Friday, Saturday, we do have this grand water trine effect. So that's why I'm saying being around nurturing, loving energy and being very aware of what we're speaking, what we're saying. There's so much change happening. So if you're with someone that's really negative or someone that is not in alignment, you could also be caught in that vortex very quickly, especially with all this water energy in effect as we approach the weekend. Let's say you've had a really intense week and you're with someone who's just very light, very benevolent, just being in their presence without maybe even saying anything. You're like, I just feel more calm and more peaceful. And I really want you to understand what that feels like, how you can calm down your nervous system. That might also just be being around water, maybe taking a bath, going near a lake, near an ocean, whatever that may be. And you're like, this is just helping me calm down, relax, see things from a different vantage point. Again, having certain resources that but paying attention, because we saw that before, right? When we talked about on Thursday, this moon Mercury sextile, just really honoring your intuition, see what's coming through. That also is just prevalent Friday, moving into Saturday as well with this grand water trine being activated. So that's a really nice cooling off of everything that took place this week. And then once we move into Sunday, Sunday, I wrote in my notes, like, buy a lottery ticket. We have a grand fire trine. So sun in Sagittarius, pardon me, moon in Sagittarius, sun in Leo, and Jupiter in Aries. So this is a vibe. Like, this is motivation, inspiration, passion, joy, excitement, potentially a windfall of money or opportunity. So it's a nice way to end the week. I also just like, on the day in which the planet rules over, we have an aspect that's so benevolent because Sundays are ruled by the sun. And we have this grand fire trine where the sun is getting love from Jupiter and the moon. Awesome. And this can also be a really powerful day where staying in a state of happiness and joy, or even just being outside in the sun, can just boom, 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 boom. Everything is just very magical, or it just appears. Yes, I will say that. It's great. And I know I spoke a lot at the beginning about all the Uranus and Mars, but I feel like that was very prevalent because now, like I said, at the end of the week on Sunday, we have this exact square between Mars and Saturn. So it might just be, A, how bad do you want it? Secondly, it becomes very evident where you need to put in more structure and boundaries, or just a notion of hurry up and wait, or slowing things down where it's like, this is all coming, but I need to reposition myself and just take a breather so I can keep progressing at this rate. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of culminations of things that take place at the end of the week that will make all the lessons that you learned potentially for the last 6-8 months or over this past week that become very clear. Okay. So on theme very much, I got a question a couple weeks ago from Linda for the astrology question of the week. My 7-year-old's favorite planet is Uranus, bracket. She doesn't even know about the joke word, end bracket. She loves it. Are there any mind-blowing stories or facts you know I can share with her? She also joins me in your moon workshop. So thank you, Linda. Thank you for writing that in. I thought that was the perfect way to integrate that question into this week's breakdown. So like I said before, Uranus can show where things just change really rapidly. It's kind of like the energy of a lightning bolt where it's quick, rapid. Sometimes you can look at a lightning storm being like, this is so pretty. I love watching a thunderstorm. But then also if you're caught in a thunderstorm, it might not be the best. So with Uranus, it isn't good or bad. It's just, it is what it is. So depending on how Uranus is aspecting certain things or where it falls in our own chart can show where we have to be open to either innovation, revolution. Uranus is also very closely linked with Aquarius and Aquarius type energy of thinking outside of the box and not just doing things in the same rigid way. So one way you all can retrospectively look at a Uranus transit is between 2010 and 2018, Uranus was in the sign of Aries. And I know for me, between 2010 and 2018, I lived in 4 different cities and I moved multiple times in each city. So I counted, in terms of like a fun Uranus story, I moved 11 times in 8 years. And I was in, like I said, 4 different cities during that time. And it wasn't planned. It was just, I was just moving around for school. I got accepted to study abroad. And then I got accepted to do my master's somewhere else. And I was like, okay. And then in each city, it just, I was kind of like leveling up my residencies. And my natal moon is in Aries in my 4th house. And there was one time when Uranus was exactly conjunct my moon where I moved. And then in 2018, like around May of 2018, Uranus moved into Taurus, but then it stationed retrograde in the fall and moved back into Aries. And again, like on the month, end of October, beginning of November, I moved again. And then I stayed at that place for 3.5 years, which was the longest I'd ever stayed in one home. So for me, it was like Uranus was like boom, 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 all these like quick, rapid changes. Sometimes I would tell my landlord I was moving. The one time I stayed in a place for a month and I'd signed a year lease, but they told me that I could just give 30 days. This is a wild story. It was one of my first residences in Toronto and I met them. They said that they were like really close friends. And this was back like 2016. So like, yes, being queer was acceptable. Yes, I was living in Toronto, but I know that some people are still very discreet. So when I looked at the posting, they said they were 2 really good friends. And I thought they meant that they were a couple, but they didn't want to scare people away from seeing the apartment. So these two men interviewed me for the place. It was great. Loved the area. I'm like, yep, I'll take it. And I should have obviously asked, but I thought that they were a couple, but they were actually just two close friends who shared a bed, and there was nothing romantic. And I was just like, how, like, privacy and everything else. Like, my mind was blown. And then the one started hitting on me, and then the other one got a boyfriend who I didn't love. They were just constantly at home nonstop. And so I was like, I cannot stay here in this place. And so then after a month, I was looking at new places, and I was gone within 2 months. So I think I signed the lease like in September, October, and I was gone by December. So if you want a fun Uranus story, that is one for you, of just Uranian things going on. I've never heard of that before, of two people sharing a room that weren't like romantically linked. And like, could you imagine sharing a room? And these were not big rooms. Like, this is just like a regular apartment in Toronto. It was not bougie, was not luxurious. It was just like average. Yeah, that was very Uranian. Like I said, if you want to retrospectively look back between 2010, 2018 at the Aries part of your chart, especially if you have any Aries placements, kind of going back and being like, what happened during that time? Or did I experience a monumental shift? And if you want to take it one step further, you can look to where Uranus is in your chart natally. So I often find, let's say, when there is a Uranus-Venus aspect in your chart, it can often lead to being in unusual or Uranian relationships. So I have a Venus-Uranus aspect, and I consider myself queer, which is not normal or traditional. And I often see when people have Uranus in their first house that they're either gender fluid or trans or queer or non-binary. It's interesting how that has manifested at this day and time, whereas before maybe it also meant something completely different, that you were just an independent thinker, or maybe even a business owner could be Uranian in the past because you weren't following a 9-to-5 structure. And that could still mean that now. It's just knowing where it falls in your chart. It can also be, for me, where you seek freedom, period, of where you really want to be able to do whatever it is that you please. And that could be to love however you love, to work however you want to work, to live wherever you want to live. So that is another way that I would look at your own Uranus placement, to greater understand that, and to understand where you might feel like you're always starting over. So if you feel like you have this nomadic lifestyle where you go from country to country to country, maybe you have Uranus in your 3rd house or your 9th house, you're constantly traveling, or maybe you're always shifting jobs. Maybe you have Uranus in the 10th house or the 6th house, or maybe relationships. You're just like boom, 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 or able to make friends very easily. Maybe you have Uranus in the 11th house for friendships, or in the 7th house, it might be around relationships. And that can even be clients in the 7th house as well, that you can manifest clients very easily, or customers or sales. So yes, I might add it to the list of like just going through the houses of how Uranus can manifest. I'll add it to the list of things. But yes, we love Uranus. We love getting to know it. And I thought that question was very timely with the conjunction that's happening this week. Okay. Fabulous. Thank you all for tuning in. And I know I went in on some of these transits, but I'm very excited. Like, as an astrologer, when you see this, you're like, ooh, like this is like a halftime show, because you don't know how it's going to play out, but you know that things are going to go down, and it's going to be a very electric and fireworks and passionate. So enjoy. Please be sure, on a serious note, to have those resources to get grounded, to make sure that you reach out for help, especially if you're someone who's very stoic or prideful, or you don't want other people to see those emotions or weaknesses. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, when the moon is in Scorpio, it's like, I don't think you're going to have a choice, or there's no need to suffer in silence, or suffer alone. If you need that support, if you need someone to hold space for you, don't be afraid to ask, because then when we get to Sunday, there might be a lot to celebrate, or there's this levity or a lesson that finally makes sense and everything comes into focus. Okay. Beautiful. Thank you for watching. Have a phenomenal week, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.